Good afternoon. This is Pamela, and you're listening to Watchmen on the Pod. All right, we're going to pick back up in our book reading The Pope, Chief of White Slavers, High Priest of Intrigue by Jeremiah J. Crowley. All right, this is part two of not William Taft, but Woodrow Wilson's letter. Okay, to Woodrow Wilson, I should say. Here we go. Clement furthermore cites the fact that Innocent the 11th had forbidden the company to receive any more novices, that Innocent the 13th felt obliged to threaten the same punishment, and Benedict the 14th had decreed a general visitation and investigation of all their houses in the Portuguese dominions, concluding that it would be very difficult, not to say impossible, that the church could recover a firm and durable peace as long as the said society subsisted. Clement XIV pronounced, I should say, final judgment in these impressive terms. We deprive it of all activity whatever, of its houses, schools, colleges, hospitals, lands, and, in short, every other place whatsoever, in whatever kingdom or province they may be situated. We abrogate and annul its statutes, rules, customs, decrees, and constitutions, even though confirmed by oath and approved by the Holy See or otherwise. In like manner, we annul all and every its privileges, indults, general or particular, the tenure whereof is and is taken to be as fully and as amply expressed in the present brief as if the same were inserted word for word in whatever clauses, form, or decree, or under whatever sanction their privileges may have been conceived. We declare all and all kind of authority, the general, the provincials, the visitors, and other superiors of the said society, to be forever annulled and extinguished, of what nature soever the said society may be, as well in things spiritual as temporal. And that's on page 231. It's an idiom, I think, IDEM. What happened to Clement XIV? Increased apprehensions as to the Pope's personal safety followed the issuance of the bull Dominus ac Redemptor. The manner in which Clement XIII had met his death on account of the mere promise to suppress the Jesuits was, writes Mr. Thompson, well calculated to excite the fear that the same fate might befall Clement XIV in revenge for their actual abolition. Hence, all the avenues of approach to the Pope were carefully watched, and utmost precautions employed to guard against the possibility of poison. These were successful for about 8 months, when a peasant woman was persuaded, by means of a disguise, to procure entrance into the Vatican and offer the Pope a fig in which poison was concealed. Clement, I believe that it was supposed to be 14. It has a T there instead of an I. It's XTV, but I believe it's supposed to be I. Was exceedingly fond of this fruit and ate it without hesitation. The same day, the first symptoms of severe illness was observed, and to these rapidly succeeded violent inflammation of the bowels. He soon became convinced that he was poisoned, and remarked, "Alas, I knew they would poison me, but I did not expect to die in so slow and cruel a manner." His terrible sufferings continued for several months. When he died, "I, the poor victim," says Cormenin, "of the execrable Jesuits," page 227 and 228. Refusing to remain suppressed, the Jesuits finally succeeded, after 41 years of intrigue, calumny, intimidation, and venality, in having their society revived and restored by solemn decree of Pope Pius VII, one of the most reactionary pontiffs that ever filled the papal see. Pius conferred on the Jesuits the right to exist as an order throughout the world, thereby approving and endorsing their vilification of his infallible predecessor, Clement XIV. He declared that his decree of restoration should be inviolably observed and that it should never be submitted to the judgment or revision of any judge. Hold on. Excuse me. Ah, hopefully this don't continue. Okay. He further commanded that no one be permitted to infringe or by audacious temerity to oppose any part of his decree, declaring that anyone guilty of disobedience thereto will thereby incur the indignation of Almighty God and of the holy apostles Peter and Paul. Sworn enemies of civil and religious liberty, of popular self-government, and all the benefits, influences of the Reformation, the Jesuits immediately upon their restoration got busy in striking their hardest blow at freedom of speech, of the press, and of religious belief. Encourage did they actively the alliance between the papacy and the monarchs of Europe, because both stood for the union of church and state as the surest guarantee for the preservation of monarchism. Going to Rome, they enjoyed the plenteous patronage of the papacy, and their cunning hand is seen clearly in the Congress of the Holy Alliance at Verona, where the Pope and allied sovereigns pronounced themselves in the most solemn form that they would continue to prevent the establishment of popular governments and would unite all their energies in preserving the monarchical institutions where they existed and in reestablishing them where they had been set aside by the people. It was this Jesuitical declaration of the Holy Alliance which called forth the Monroe Doctrine that every liberty-loving American should cherish as a second Declaration of Independence. Acquiring complete domination in the councils of the Church, the restored Jesuits induced Gregory XVI, immediate predecessor of Pius IX, a pontiff on our own day, to denounce the poisoned sources which produce that false and absurd, or rather extravagant maxim that liberty of conscience should be established and guaranteed to each man, and to anathemize the liberty of the press as the most fatal liberty and execrable liberty for which there never can be sufficient horror. He finally inculcated the duty of constant submission to princes. It was their Jesuitical intrigue and influence which railroaded the infamous dogma of papal infallibility through the Vatican Council. Leo XIII, a product of Jesuitical training and education, has again and again declared that the American people are doomed to rapid decay and ultimate ruin unless they reunite themselves with the Holy See of Rome and obey the Pope and his successors, occupying the place of Christ on earth. Well does Mr. Thompson indicate that a man must be stupid if he cannot, and willful if he will not, see that, according to the religious doctrines announced by Pius IX and Leo XIII, omitting other popes, all the great fundamental principles of our government and all the laws enacted to preserve them are held to be impious and so in violation of the divine law that they may be rightfully resisted whenever the Pope sees fit to command resistance. The papal system condemns as violative of divine law these fundamental principles of free American institutions: the separation of church and state, the freedom of conscience and of religious belief, the liberty of speech and of the press, the subjection of ecclesiastics to laws like other citizens, the people as exclusive depositaries of political power, the refusal to concede to the Pope the potential power of conferring upon bishops and clergy the prerogative right to manage church property in contravention of the civil laws, and last but far from least, the American public school system established all over this republic. The effect of the papal infallibility dogma is thus defined by a Romanist writer, Very Reverend Thomas Cannon, Pope, in his authoritative work, The Council of the Vatican. The Council will vindicate its authority over the world and prove its right founded on a divine commission to enter most intimately into all the spiritual concerns of the world, to supervise the acts of the kings, the diplomatist, the philosopher, and the general, to circumscribe the limits of their speculative inquiries, to hold up the lamp which is to light their only path to knowledge and education, to subjugate human reason to the yoke of faith, to extinguish liberals, rationalists, and deists by one stroke of her infallibility. Infallible dogma is a bright light which every intellect must recognize, whether willingly or reluctantly. The Church claims its right to enter the world's domain and recognizes no limits but the circumference of Christianity, to enforce her laws over her subjects, to control their reason and judgment, to guide their morals, their thoughts, words, and actions, and regard temporal sovereigns, though entitled to exercise power in secular affairs, as auxiliaries and subordinates to the attainment of the end of her institution, the glory of God and the salvation of the immortal souls of men. Page 11. Excuse me. Your administration is already preoccupied with the serious problems arising from disturbed conditions in Cuba, Mexico, and the Central American republics, with the celebrated Leon Gambetta of France, who soon after the disastrous Germanic War, into which the French prelacy and priesthood had plunged that country in 1870 to 1871, to utter plaintive cry of warning, America may be at early date obliged to exclaim, and it's in French or something, Le Clarissime Viola el Imini. The hand, sir, of the clerical disturber and white slaver is at work in Latin America to create conditions inimical to American interest in all this hemisphere, and particularly to American rights in the Panama Canal. Synonymous are in Latin America the terms Los Americanos and Los Fanaticos. Come teaches Latin American youth to hate from earliest infancy this America of ours as the land of high-bound heresy and of ancestral hostility to Latin civilization. Notorious is the fact that the priesthood of Spanish American countries advises the sending of sons and daughters of wealthy families to Europe, that these susceptible young folk of Latin blood may be spared the contamination of close association with heretic American boys and girls. So far is the antagonism of Central and South American cleric carried to our American schools that even Romanist schools of approved orthodoxy in the United States are considered perilous to youthful Latin Americans. The very atmosphere of these United States is considered unhealthy for the perpetuation of any of the Romanist superstitions, unfortunately too prevalent in the countries to south of us. Bear in mind, should Americans, the prophecy of General Lafayette reared and educated a Roman Catholic. It is my opinion that if the liberties of this country, the United States of America, are destroyed, it will be by the subtlety of the Roman Catholic Jesuit priests, for they are the most crafty, dangerous enemies to civil and religious liberty. They have instigated most of the wars of Europe. Look what's happening today, and people are just blind. Responsible is the same accursed agency for unsettled conditions at present in America. Mexico rent in sunder, its smoking ruins drenched in blood. Central America torn by sanguinary fanaticism, brother fighting brother and father fighting sons. Brazil menaced with a revolution of Romanist priestly origin to restore the empire under a Orleanist Catholic prince, Venezuela and various other Latin states disturbed, distracted, and oppressed by priestcraft, greed, and superstition, all give evidence painful and portunous of papal activities and aggressions. The coldness and hostility of Latin American states towards this republic is, sir, I say without fear of contradiction, due in controlling measure to the influence of the Roman prelacy and priesthood. The property holdings of the church in Spanish America are enormous. In Mexico, its real property alone is valued at $200 million. This is like way back when, 1912. This is crazy. 1913, something like that. Nothing the priests of Spanish America fear so much as an ingress of American trade, an adoption of American educational methods, an advent of the American free school, free press, and free speech, an election of America's cult of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as rights inalienable of all men, born free and equal. Better is priestly view, 10,000 times better, superstition, degradation, internecine conflict with inevitable, oft reoccurring seasons of slaughter and rapine than the establishment of permanent free republican institutions on the American model, with fullest liberty of conscience guaranteed to all, offering adequate instrumentalities for the suppression of conventual, clerical, and prelatical white slavery systems. We guard sedulously and rigidly against cholera and bubonic plague. But cholera and bubonic plague are blessings compared with white slavery as it flourishes under the aegis of Romanism from Montreal to Montevideo. In my book, Romanism, A Menace to the Nation, I charge that the Roman Catholic hierarchy of Chicago profit very largely from contributions of gamblers, saloon keepers, and white slave keepers, particularly so as a result of the work of the Vice Commission recently held in that city. I have it on the very best authority that cannot be disputed, that this commission was manipulated and controlled by Roman priests. It serves to furnish them with the most valuable information, which they could not obtain through the confessional or otherwise. Such information, in the hands of the Roman hierarchy, affords a new and rich species of graft, vice commission graft. The Vatican system thrives on ignorance, vice, and crime. No wonder the priests and prelates hope to establish similar vice commissions in the large cities throughout the country. White slavery is nowhere, sir, so rampant and audacious as in Roman Catholic countries. What Protestant city is the equal of Paris, Vienna, Naples, or Rome itself in patronage of prostitutes and prostitution? What Protestant country tolerates such irreverence for and disregard of the marriage vow as the Latin countries of Europe and America? Illegitimacy is nowhere more prevalent than in Roman Catholic lands, both in the New and Old Worlds. Why? Because the priesthoods hold not marriage in honor, nor womanhood in veneration. You are, sir, to be asked by the Illinois State Commissioners to aid in the fight against white slavery. The purity of your private life, the profound and abiding regard you inherit from Southern and Presbyterian blood for stainless family headstones, your record as educator and reformer entitles you to leadership in such a movement. Tied up, should you not be in slightest degree with Rome bound and priest-ridden schemes of social reform, whether these schemes be endorsed by civic or state authorities. The Roman priesthood has been in control of Latin America for 4 centuries. Where does prostitution more unrestrainedly flourish? Nowhere, save perhaps in the Latin countries of Europe, where for 7 centuries or more priestly licentiousness has vitiated the very atmosphere and tainted every avenue, social and civic. No, sir, no. Rome may not be permitted to inject her pernicious personality into the war on white slavery. White slavery is one of her most potent agencies of graft and gain. A war on white slavery, with you, sir, for chief, on the side of personal and domestic purity, can permit of no alliance or immixtion with papal intrigue or priestly bestiality. The greed, the aggressiveness, the intolerance of Romanist designs upon America has never been in recent years more deliberately, definitely, defiantly expressed than by the Right Reverend Edward J. Hanna, Auxiliary Bishop of San Francisco, to the Knights of Columbus. Bishop Hanna wants all of this country fenced in with a papal wall of granitic intolerance for Pope and prelacy of Rome. I call, sir, your especial attention to the menacing words of this Roman propagandist, not Loyola, in his most sanguine hope and enthusiastic purpose to subject the world to papalistic absolutism and bloodthirsty cruelty, ever thought out a plan more carefully or delineated and more cold-bloodedly than does this ardent envoy of the reactionary Pius X detail his claim for Roman Catholic domination in temporals and in spirituals over this free republic. Here are Hanna's words. This country is ours by inheritance. The world was given to Christ for his inheritance. Truth always has a claim where error cannot come. The Holy Roman Catholic Church brought the truth to America. And as we are the inheritors of the earth, this glorious country is ours by right. It ought to be ours by right of fighting, and by right of conquest. This country was found by a great Catholic, the man after whom our order has been named. The Catholics have made this as great as it is because we hold in our power and grasp the high principles that go to make greatness. We found this country, and we have made it great. America is ours because we found it, and because we have conquered it. And what a noble inheritance it is! God's country with its valleys and its mountains, its rivers and its oceans, and the kingdom of Christ stretching from sea to sea. This is our inheritance. It is your duty as Knights of Columbus to hold and to keep that inheritance which we found, won, and are making our own. Were any non-Romanist citizens to utter sentiments so seditious and so perturbing, he were surely called to task, if not incarcerated, at the instance of Knights of Columbus or other prelatical agencies. Roman prelates, priests, laymen are allowed a license of speech menacing social tranquility and civic order through the Union. What a perversion of historic truth! Bishop Hanna's utterly untenable because unveracious statement that the Roman Catholic Church alone brought the gospel truth to America. What little of truth it has brought, sir, is so darkened and distorted by priestly corruption, lechery, greed, and cruelty as to handicap the saving power of these few Christian messages of uplift, which Papist monks, Jesuits, and priests have occasionally professed solely to cover crime, rapacity, and other infamy. The pure gospel message delivered by men of pure purpose and sainted life never degrades. It uplifts, purines, blesses, and strengthens people saved by its touch. The Emon message of lust and loot degrades and disseminates every land it afflicts with pernicious presence and activity. Those parts of America from Quebec to Quito, where I think he means Romanism. Yeah, I think he missed. Okay, it's not emo message, it's the Roman message. Forgive me, emo. I'm sorry. Where Romanism has acquired domination suffer to this day from its deadly and deadening touch. Those parts which have accepted the Christian message of the Reformation, the sublime, God-given tidings of purification, of enlightenment, of disenthrallment of the benign and loving Jesus, have from Mexican line to Arctic Circle prospered and advanced. No, no, Mr. Henna, America is not of the Pope's domain. It is, as you, Mr. President, know, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Free to worship God as conscience, not papal despotism and darkness may dictate. Not one state in this union, not even New Mexico, so long under the ban and bane of Romanistic semi-barbarism, may be, by a proud, fearless, and God-loving, Bible-reading people, suffered to become a Calabria of or a Quebec, the only spots on earth where papalism today enjoys undisputed sway and shuts out light of gospel, grace, and freedom. Such, sir, is the foe that I have denounced and exposed boldly and unanswerably in my book, Romanism, a Menace to the Nation. Such the foe that, fastening itself on the postal service of this free country, exercises through complacent officials inquisitorial power. I mail, under separate cover, copy of the book Romanism, a Menace to the Nation, so generously lauded by people, press, and pulpit. My purpose, Mr. President, is not to acquire mere personal gain or personal fame. A purer and, I would fain believe, better ambition impels me. My purpose is to live up to the standard well set by Henry Van Dyke. There is a loftier ambition than merely to stand high in the world. It is to stoop down and lift mankind a little higher. There is a nobler character than that which is merely incorruptible. It is the character which acts as an antidote and preventative of corruption, fearlessly to speak the words which bear witness to righteousness and truth and purity, patiently to do the deeds which strengthen virtue and kindle hope in your fellow men, generously to lend a hand to those who are trying to climb upward, faithfully to give your support and your personal help to the efforts which are making to elevate and purify the social world of the social life of the world. That is what it means to have salt in your character. The whole question resolves itself, sir, into this plain formulary. Is this a government of the people, by the people, for the people, or a government of the Pope, by the Pope, for the Pope? Bearing on my standing as author and publicist, let me cite pages 693, 694, 695, 696, 697, 698, and 699, and 700 of my book, Romanism, a Menace to the Nation. With all respect for you personally and for the great office of the nation has called you to fill, I ask respectfully that the matter of my complaint against Post Office Clerk Herney, now before the Post Office Department of the United States, be brought to speedy decision. My earnest wish is, Mr. President, that you may be blessed and strengthened throughout your official life, and after by the Almighty Father, whose book your lips on Inauguration Day touched at these sublime and comforting words. And I will walk at liberty, for I seek thy precepts. I will speak of thy testimonials also before kings, and will not be ashamed. I will delight myself in thy commandments, which I have loved. My hands also will I lift up unto thy commandments, which I have loved, and I will meditate in thy statutes. I have the honor to be, sir, very respectfully, Jeremiah J. Crowley, Jeremiah J. Crowley. Let's see. Okay. Is it really? Okay. Forgive me. Division of and replying salaries and allowances mentioned initial and date Post Office Department, First Assistant Postmaster General, Washington. Mr. Jeremiah J. Crowley, March 1913, 619 Johnston Building, Cincinnati. Sir, the receipt is acknowledged of your letter on the 22nd instant, addressed to the President Taft and referred to this office for action, in reply to which I beg to state that your complaint has been sent to the Post Office Inspector for a full and complete investigation, who no doubt will call upon you for any additional facts to substantiate the charges which you may be able to give him. Upon receipt of his report, you will be promptly advised of the action taken. Respectfully, Daniel C. Roper, First Assistant Postmaster General. Honorable Daniel C. Roper, March 25th, 1913, First Assistant Postmaster General, Washington, D.C. Dear Sir, Mr. Charles Junior Swain, post office inspector, called on me today in reference to my alleged complaint as to the destruction of mail. My complaint in the letter addressed to President Taft on February 22nd last and repeated in a letter to President Wilson dated March 17th had to do exclusively with the outrageous insult and injury offered me by one Herney, a post office clerk. That, sir, is the one subject of complaint from me now before your department, and do respectfully ask for early investigation and judgment thereon. Respectfully yours, Jeremiah J. Crowley. Division of, in replying, salaries and allowances, mention initials and date, CF. Post Office Department. First Assistant Postmaster General, March 28, 1913. Mr. Jeremiah J. Crowley, 619 Johnston Building, Cincinnati, Ohio. Sir, I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter of the 17th instant, which the President Wilson has referred to this office relative to your complaint against Clerk Herney of the Cincinnati, Ohio Post Office for using disrespectful language. In reply, I beg to state that the matter was referred to a post office inspector for a thorough investigation on March 14th, and your letter just received has been forwarded for consideration in connection with the case. Respectfully, Daniel C. Roper, First Assistant Postmaster General. Up to the moment of this book's going to press, no redress has been vouchsafed me by the government at Washington for the grievous wrongs cited in the foregoing letters to Presidents Taft and Wilson. Our Washington statesmen are, it may be, too busy attending requiem high masses for deceased Roman Catholic rulers to attend to administrative duties on behalf of the American people. Observe the subjoined from the Catholic Telegraph, Cincinnati, April 24th, 1913. Catholic Press Association. Washington, April 23rd. The President of the United States went to Mass on April 18th in St. Matthew's Church, the city. The holy sacrifice was offered for the repose of the soul of General Manuel Bonilla, the late President of Honduras. Monsignor Lee officiated, assisted by Monsignor Russell, Monsignor Mackin, and other priests. Vice President Marshall, Secretary of State Bryan, other members of the cabinet, the majority of the diplomatic corps, members of Congress, and other distinguished personages were also present. The guardians of bigotry and all the other bogus patriotic societies will have a fit when they learn that President Wilson was officially present at the celebration of Mass in a Catholic church. Americans who bow not before the idols of popery may well ask, are our presidents and vice presidents, our cabinet officers and the judges of Supreme Court, our senators and representatives placed in office to play part so subservient and so dastardly servile to Rome's foulest purposes? Yes, sir, they are. Every single last one of them, Trump included, if you ask me. I added that just now, sorry. Okay. Rome is now egging on Japan to annex Mexico, seize on the Philippines, on Hawaii, and Alaska to wipe off the United States of America from the map of the world's greatest power. While our presidents are attending Mass, the Jap and other foreign emissaries in America are busy stealing plans from the Navy Department and setting every weak spot in our national armor to report thereon promptly and fully to hostile governments. And they're still doing it. Well, pretty much they run it. They do. Rome, hating a free, popular government like that of America, which it is not anymore, is ready to coalesce with Jap or any other agency, pagan, atheistical, or professedly Christian, to destroy our nation. The following pages constitute a searchlight of unerring power and accuracy on Romish intrigue and diabolicism. The neglect of the United States government to do me even elementary justice in the Herney matter is paralleled exactly by the dilatoriness of the Iowa state authorities in adequately punishing my assailants at Olewian, June 12, 1913, and by the cruel and callous refusal of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania police system to investigate a robber's forcible entry to my apartment at the Hotel Henry when he abstracted a watch especially valuable by reason of the memories it suggested. What form of brutal outrage must I next await? Jeremiah J. Crowley, Cincinnati, Ohio, August 1913. Wow, that is crazy. All right, so that right there concludes part 2 of his letter to Woodrow Wilson. And we will pick up next time. And this will be a letter to the Pope. You know that's going to be a long letter. I can't wait. I really can't wait. This has really got me, paying attention. I was like, what's going to happen next? But next is to the letter to Pope Pius X, number 1. So, all right, brothers and sisters, keep your eyes on Jesus. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. And embed the Word of God upon the tablets of our hearts. So you and I will not sin against God or be deceived. He's amazing, brothers and sisters. He is amazing. I love him truly. You have a great day. Bye-bye.